Welcoming all our viewers to International Affairs. This is being broadcasted at SATV's online studio as well as the studio over here. I welcome all our viewers and audience to this very program. We have a lot more to discuss today regarding the comments made by U.S. President Donald Trump regarding Iran and regarding the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. President Donald Trump is stating that the clock is ticking for them to get moving. These are the comments that U.S. President Donald Trump made as the Brent last day financial price surpasses $110 a barrel. Of course, the price has been at a 2-week high as we observe the international geopolitical arena. I want to begin the discussion, but before I do that, let me introduce my panel. Here in the studio, I have Associate Professor Shibli Islam of Rajshahi University, an expert on international law and, of course, an analyst on geopolitical affairs. I welcome you on to the program. Thank you for being here. Alongside, I will have Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent from Washington, District of Columbia. I want to begin with you, Norman, regarding Hormuz and regarding U.S. President Donald Trump. He came back from a very heavy-hitting summit in China, and he is now stating his moves with Iran, a commentary which suggests that time is running out before the Strait of Hormuz must be open. The economies around the world is being affected on a daily basis, on an hourly basis as well. I want to get the latest updates from you. What are the updates that you have for us from Washington, Norman?
Good morning. It's 4 a.m. here in Washington, D.C., Monday morning. So we will get the updates when the congressmen and the delegates come in, hopefully sometime later today. But in the meantime, the president has spoken again. And once President Trump speaks, the markets is affected by that. So today is another example where the president said the clock is ticking and there will be nothing left of Iran if they continue to delay. The Brent oil price went up. The price of gasoline went up. The price of everything is going up. So the markets are basically absorbing his words to the point where it's affecting the trend. It's creating what we call a global earthquake every time he speaks regarding the economy. So right now, the president is contemplating military action. He's spoken with his prime minister in Israel. The military is again waiting, but again, the president is delaying what he says about attacking or creating military action or continue the conflict. They're still talking about a possible ceasefire, but the Iranians have stated that they are prepared to move to the next level in terms of a conflict. They're prepared to fight. The United States military is prepared to fight. So the only thing right now is when and where, and when the president of the United States decide to give that direction.
Right. Interesting statements from Norman Floyd Barnes. As the day progresses, sometimes the morning shows the day. In this regard, Donald Trump's comments paves the way for the week ahead. And of course, on a Monday is very important because as the markets open in the United States, Monday is the start of the week over there. And the commentary made right before Monday opens is very important to see how the week shall be shaped. Now, let's look in the studio, talk with the studio in the studio with Professor Shibli Islam. We see that Iran has not stopped its attack or defensive posture in the region around the Strait of Hormuz, especially United Arab Emirates. Yesterday, we have seen that a drone attack was reported as a fire was just outside the Barakah nuclear plant, caused no injury or radiation alerts. But how dangerous do you think this is? A drone being susceptible to creating damage at a nuclear facility. Of course, if there was any sort of incidences, it would definitely replicate the Chernobyl disaster that we've had so many years ago. So this is a huge violation of international law, something you specialize in. How do you see this as we move more over to the 80th day between this confrontation in the Middle East?
Well, thank you so much. That's a very important question in the context that we are living right now. Most importantly, Donald Trump, through his text in social media, made it very clear that Iran has to decide for themselves. But the problem is that you have to understand, now the world is not led by the 193 boats. These 193 countries are not separate boats. These are the different compartments of the same boat. So when the boat is sinking, there is no point in saving your compartment, because ultimately the boat's gonna sink. Right. So now this is about cooperation. This is about saving our planet Earth. So when there is a war, and you have already reiterated about the visit of Trump to China.
Right.
So you have to understand, the more America or United States of America will engage in war in Middle East, it will somehow enhance the capabilities of China. So Trump comes with a message that America first. Believe me, every American president, to every American president in history, they had America first as well. It doesn't have to speak through your mouth. So definitely when someone takes the oath, someone gets the mandate to become the president of the United States of America, for them, America is the first. So, for example, in 2003, many allies of the United States of America, like Saudi Arabia, Germany, the France, Egypt, they actually tried to advise George Bush not to engage in war in Iraq. But still they engaged in war. But what that did, it somehow equipped China. Believe me, from 2003 to 2013, right, China's GDP has dramatically increased because of this war, silently. So if Mr. Donald Trump, the President Donald Trump, think about it, wisely, and if he think long term, well, there might be some popularity, as there is a growing debate that this war is to somehow, to fade the Epstein profile or Epstein facts. But whatever it is, if you take on the serious notes, this war is not going to end very well. So it has larger consequences, because you are sinking the boat that has different compartments. So you are not sinking a separate boat. So this is why when this war will prolong, then that's what happened yesterday. United Arab Emirates nuclear facility has been affected. So it has far larger consequences. And if America or United States of America wants to be great again, according to Mr. Trump, they have to, act wisely, because when there will be longer conflict in the Middle East, as it is proved by the charts and the statistics, right, that China will grow stronger. Well, in this era, the United States of America is, acting like Soviet Union of the Cold War era.
Right.
Because Soviet Union of Cold War era was acting like this. So definitely it's one of the superpower, it's major superpower of the world. So it has to act wisely, and by doing this, he has segregated Europe from America. So definitely this has larger consequences. If this conflict goes, according to his social media statements, if this conflict goes long, then it has larger consequences, and China will equip financially. They will be financially dominant again, like 2003 to 2013. Uninterruptedly, they will gain strength in strength in economy, and they will have larger strength militarily as well. So definitely there is an alarming time ahead, and United Nations and international community should come forward, because that is pretty alarming, hitting through drone in a nuclear facility, because it has a very dire consequences, which I do believe that would be very difficult to control.
Like we've seen in the past how Chernobyl, a part of Ukraine, has been destroyed and inhabitable by human life for the last 30 to 40 years as well. Interesting take regarding Donald Trump, and of course his commentary on how he said time is of the essence. I want to focus on the Iran aspects, and before this war began, we've seen protests against the revolutionary government in Iran. However, right now, as the night falls over Iran, the capital near Tahrir Square, we see that the upscale neighborhood of Iran, everyone is on the streets trying to mobilize their supporters against the United States, chanting things like death to America. A very common scene to find in the Iranian streets as of right now. I want to ask Norman Floyd Barnes the consequences of how this will span out. 80 days have been gone already, and numerous lives have been lost in fighting this war. Of course, on both sides, not only in Iran, but of course militarily, there have been some losses as well. I want to ask you, Norman, what is the future of this war, and will there be some kind of mediation? Of course, Qatar was initially seen to mediate the issues of Iran. Today, it is Pakistan who's trying to negotiate between the two sides. Of course, the US is not listening. If not, Iran will not demand to stop their nuclear program, will definitely want to have a nuclear warhead. How do you see this, Norman, the increasing doubts and uncertainty in the coming days?
Thank you again for the question. It's quite ironic. Over the last 79 to 80 days, the world has changed its view of the United States. Once a military might has now become a state where countries are doubting the once powerful United States and its military might to impose its will around the world has now become, well, less as a country. Countries who are not directly involved with the United States are now reconsidering the relationship, seeking and creating alternatives to dealing directly with the United States in terms of its military and in terms of commerce and doing business and day-to-day working. So it has been an amazing process to see how countries are now saying, hey, we don't have to take this. We can get alternatives. If not, we can create our own alternatives. Let's move forward. The days of going back, I think it's something of a lost cause. The future is now upon us. And the question is, how do the United States fit in with the rest of the world? Notice I said fit in. It's not a situation in the rest of the world fit in with the United States. It's how the United States adapt and fit in with the changing and emerging world. So let's start looking to the future and see how this conflict can produce a positive change. Countries are now engaging and take the pressure off of a one power structure telling and dictating what the world can do. Let's talk about how we can move together collectively in the future.
Right, and at the statement that you have made it very clear, the United States trying to fit in. I want to locate that with the geopolitical calendar of this very week. Last week, we've seen Donald Trump's visit to China. However, a heavyweight is also visiting Xi Jinping and China as of this week. It is, of course, the Kremlin leader, Russian President Vladimir Putin. And this is where Donald Trump may think otherwise. Immediately after his visit, we see the leader of Russia trying to visit China. And of course, that is important because those two are in one camp ever since the beginning of the war. At least that's how I would see it. Would Professor Shibli Islam agree with me that these two allies are what the United States are watching out for?
Of course, because that's the biggest challenge that the United States is facing, because China is one of the major world power now. So definitely Kremlin reiterate about the fact that their friendship, their cooperation is unique, and they are the allies for like more than 10 years, so or 10 years or on. So this visit sends a very important message that China doesn't want to be separated. It will collaborate with world community, and whoever wants cooperation from them, they're open to them.
Right.
So this tariff war somehow, the war that Donald Trump has started, it somehow changed the international relations. Basically, the allies, they didn't remain as allies, or the enemies, they didn't remain as enemies, because they reshaped the geopolitical atmosphere. So this is why this visit of Vladimir Putin is very strategic, because they are old allies, and it sends a very strong message that any
Right.
new proposal will never shake the strong stone on its the bilateral relation of China-Russia is set upon. So that's very important, and at the same time you have to understand that they have the strategic relation, economic relation as well.
Right.
Because Russia is the
Under the BRICS forum as well.
exactly under the BRICS forum as well. So definitely they are under sanction as well in terms of import and export. These two countries heavily rely on each other. So definitely that's a strategic meeting that will take place.
Of course, lovely statements coming from Shibli Islam here in the studio. It is time to take a short commercial break. However, I want to end on this very strong notion. The common Chinese citizen definitely sees their leader Xi Jinping hosting world leaders such as Donald Trump and, of course, later this week, Vladimir Putin. That definitely raises the rank of Xi Jinping as a leader of this state known as China. Of course, one cannot just ignore the fact they are no longer an emerging power. They are very close to becoming an established one. With that being said, it's time to take a commercial break. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Pantha.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan
opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Welcoming all our viewers back on International Affairs. Today I am joined in the studio with Associate Professor Shibli Islam. Alongside we will have Norman Floyd Barnes, our geopolitical correspondent from District of Columbia. I want to begin with Norman, a sudden change of the discussion here. We were discussing about the United States of America, Donald Trump, China, Russia and the whole lot. However, I want to talk about United Kingdom for a change. There is a certain tensions regarding British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Of course, Sir Keir Starmer is currently facing intense pressure to resign following major losses in English local elections. Multiple government ministers have resigned and over 70 Labour MPs have demanded he set a timeline for his departure. I believe that he has said to the local media in his nation that we must get on with governing. Also the foreign advisor as well, David Lammy, I believe, Secretary Lammy is also supportive of Sir Keir Starmer's movements and his decision making. But popularity and favoritism is very important, as we will see who will lead the UK's parliament. The King's speech also outlined some of the important factors that the government must follow. I want to get a comment from you, Norman. How do you see this tensions in the UK governance? How will you value this upcoming or this currently hot issue in the United Kingdom?
Thank you again. The situation in the UK is very chaotic. Starmer is fighting for his political life right now. There's calls for his resignation. He stated that no, he's going to continue to fight on. The party is developing other potential leaders for the party, but right now everything is in a mess. I call it the hot mess. They have a hot mess over there regarding who's going to lead the country, how they're going to lead the country, and when all of this is going to take place. So right now is a day-by-day situation. So there's heavy debate in the parliament, and the situation is very fluid. Thank you.
Right. Thanking Norman Floyd. Very important to understand the position of power and the expectation of the people. You see that Labour took to government after many years and people had high expectations and hopes with Sir Keir Starmer. I want to turn to the studio with Professor Shibli Islam. You were in the United Kingdom, as far as I remember, very recently on a business trip, as I know. However, I want to get the notion from you. How do you see this as there is a new contender, the former British Health Secretary West Streeting, who resigned from the government this week, says he will replace Prime Minister Keir Starmer when the contest is triggered. This is the words used by multiple media sources, the contest being triggered. The people need a clear direction. It is the United Kingdom, after all, where Westminster-style parliamentarian rules were actually born from, something that even the current day Commonwealth is also following. I want to get a know-how from you. How do you see this political turmoil is the word to be best used to be describing this situation?
Well, that's very important in the politics of the British Parliament, because, you know, as you have mentioned, the West Streeting, he resigned, and as you have rightly pointed out, and James Murray, he has been appointed as a new Health Secretary. So that's pretty important, because yesterday Sir Keir Starmer, he had a meeting in Downing Street, and in number 10 the meeting was very comprehensive, and his cabinet said in a press conference, when they're coming out one after another, when the reporters moved along to them for the comment that whether they want the resignation of the Prime Minister or not, they clearly stated that cabinet is having confidence on him, and there is a process of resignation, and there is a process of changing the Prime Minister. And though several MPs have they showed non-confidence on the Prime Minister, but they didn't initiated the process. Well, that was a very firm stand of the cabinet, because when in the past we have seen how the power shifted from Margaret Thatcher to John Major, from Tony Blair to Gordon Brown, from Boris Johnson to Liz Truss, and from Liz Truss to Rishi Sunak, the immediately past Prime Minister. But the problem is, even the cabinet was not in confidence of the Prime Minister. But yesterday, the statements from the British cabinet was pretty clear that they firmly stand behind the Prime Minister, and there is a process, and that process hasn't been initiated. But suddenly, today, West Streeting, he declared that he will be, contending for the Prime Minister. Well, it's not about contending of the Prime Ministership. It's about contending the head of the Labour Party. So there is a process. Like right now, the Labour has like around 403 MPs in House of Commons. So you need 20% support if somebody wants to be the leader of the Labour Party. So in that case, somebody like, for example, West Streeting, he needs the support of 81 MPs to run for the leadership of the Labour Party. So those a member of the Parliament of the Labour Party and trade union members of the Labour Party, they will vote in the election in terms of electing the leader of the Labour Party, and they will be ranked. So anyone, not only West Streeting, or anyone who wants to be the leader of the Labour Party, if they have this kind of support, like 20% support, they could run in the election process of leader of the Labour Party, and the voters will rank them around 1, 2, 3, 4. So by the time they get 50%, they won't be elected as a leader of the Labour Party. So until that 50% is achieved, the least popular leader will be exempted from the list. So this is how the election process of electing the leadership of Labour Party. So we know that the Labour Party or any leader from the Labour Party, even the strongest contender is the great Manchester Mayor. At first he has to become the MP as well. So they didn't initiated this process. Now we have to understand that why the confidence of the Labour MPs were shaken. Well, many of the MPs believe the poor election results and the failing popularity of the Labour, especially the rise of the Nigel Farage. You know how Nigel Farage, he's a strong, he strongly criticized about the asylum policy, about the immigration policy. He even talked that the Muslims, who are the British, definitely they're living there for 60 years or more than half a decade, or well, more than half a century. He says that Muslims, well, he straightforwardly says the Muslim immigrants, they don't carry the British values, which is very, definitely a very, many, activists or politicians were flabbergasted by the, this kind of heinous comment, which is unacceptable. Remarks. Definitely. So in northern UK, Nigel Farage and his Reform Party is gaining popularity. So many Labour MPs fear about the fact that if that popularity rises, then that would be very difficult for them to, get a good result in the next election. So that is another. And the other thing that they basically are worried about is a lack of clear political vision of Sir Keir Starmer. He's becoming too much cautious and managerial in terms of he doesn't have any clear policy. He has policy U-turns, he has indecisiveness in terms of taking major policy decisions, and internal Labour Party rebellion along with rise of alternating Labour political figures. So these are the reasons, and people are of the belief that Sir Keir Starmer didn't win landslide election because of his demeanor or because of his political virtue. It's because the large part of his election landslide victory was dependent on the Conservative failure. So definitely he didn't bring anything substantial, anything that could change the British people's mindset, because when the Labour went to the countryside for these local elections, they are criticized by the voters about the lack of precision, about the lack of vision of the Labour Prime Minister. This is why, House of Commons, there is a strong debate going on. But I still feel that getting the 81 81 MP support is not very difficult. So they're in a very shaky position. The English Parliament is in shaky position. So that is more or less the situation of UK Parliament, and let's hope, and everybody every critic of the British politics do think that having a parliament that is shaky, changing of prime minister or changing in the top will never change the situation in the country, never change the financial situation, the housing crisis, and the different crises that UK population is facing, the oil crisis or the gas crisis that they're burdened of. That will not change. The changing in the top will not change, because we have seen, you've seen already the constant changes of the Conservative Prime Minister, one after another, from Boris Johnson to Liz Truss, from Liz Truss to
only shows
Theresa May, from Theresa May to Rishi Sunak. So definitely that didn't bring the change. Ultimately, Conservative government fell down. So definitely it's not an ultimate solution. So let us see how far this restrating can go to to get the support of the 21% MP, and whether his policies can move the Labour voters, the MPs and the trade union members to vote for him in the leadership campaign of Labour leader, being the Labour leader.
Excellent take on these issues from the UK Parliament as well. I want to connect it, the situation with what Donald Trump said. Time is of the essence, and that is how we will see whether there should be a contest triggered for the UK Prime Minister. I want to change the discussion topic here on out and talk to Norman Floyd Barnes regarding an issue that is very close to heart. According to CNN, we see that a measles outbreak has crossed into Mexico from Texas. It all started when a 9-year-old boy went with his parents to visit Texas last year, and after he returned to Mexico, a red rash erupted on his skin. Within weeks, many of his classmates fell ill and that their school had to shut down. Of course, I also want to relate it to the measles outbreak that we see here in Bangladesh, with over 400 children, lives have been costed. We still do not know who to blame. The current administration is only blaming the administration of the past, let alone those who upheld both administration is government workers who are still working today without a clear direction. This is a very serious cause. It's not only in Bangladesh. Today we see it happening in southern as well as Central America. How do you see this, Norman Floyd Barnes, as there is also news coming from the World Health Organization that there is a serious Ebola outbreak happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Once more, it is Congo and Uganda that is becoming the picture of such a dangerous disease. Norman, how do you see this? What should the administration be trying to do?
Once again, we're seeing the dismal attempts by administrations to do their own thing. The World Health Organization is somewhat compromised in terms of its outreach, in terms of its effect, since the United States and several other countries have decided to go out, leave it. As you greatly mentioned, we have a problem globally in terms of infectious diseases. Unless there's a coordinated response from all the countries, and this is something that's very hard because we can't communicate and talk about issues. We get into wars instead of providing solutions. We need solutions, and if it would be impossible to respect the health groups of the world to unite and deal with these issues if we can't avoid these global conflicts. We're fighting over the Middle East, we're fighting in South America, we're fighting drugs, we're fighting this. We got internal issues, fighting between parties, who's going to run the party, Labour Party, Republican parties, what party, doesn't matter. And now we have these outbreaks. These things that one time we was managing, but now the issue is, okay, measles coming back, Ebola, hantavirus, measles, all these other things are popping up now. they're not managed. And the reason is we're not communicating, we're not sharing doctors, we're not using our expertise on dealing with things. We're working in fragmented neighborhoods, communities, which we think we can do it all by ourselves. Well, the world is telling us that, hey, the world is going to evolve and it doesn't matter. You think you can control something in your little sandbox? This is bigger than that. We are now a global community. People travel back and forth daily. You can travel around the world in a couple of days, couple of hours. So with that, you take whatever you had issues and you go to the next community. Without communication, you have no idea what's going on. The kid going across the border back and forth, that's one example. Can you imagine how many other examples we have? We have thousands of people moving around, traveling the world, and without any type of coordination. So what you're seeing is the future, is that we're going to have these issues with health issues, with infectious diseases. We're talking about wars, but the issue is that this health issue, how we deal with people, all of this is going to go to naught. So all this talking about the military, well, all these resources.
Right. As Norman was stating, and as he has been disconnected from this very broadcast, let me also add on that measles is one of the most contagious diseases in the world, far so more that COVID-19. It is spread by an infected person's coughing, sneezing, or even just talking. The virus can stand in the air for almost 2 hours, and a single person can potentially infect 18 others. This information is important for people to understand, governments to understand how they will tackle this ongoing worldwide situation. It is no longer just restricted to Bangladesh, as we were discussing an event between Texas and Mexico. It is time to take a short commercial break. Afterwards, we see the multiple violations by the Israeli military in various fronts, not only in Gaza, but as well as southern Lebanon and in international waters regarding the Samud flotilla. Do stay tuned on this very program. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panta.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen,
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday at 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panta.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV screen.
really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Well, coming back to the last segment of International Affairs, I must thank Norman Floyd Barnes for continuously supporting this program throughout, as we were discussing regarding measles, regarding the Ebola situation that has developed according to the World Health Organization. I want to ask Professor Shibli Islam in the studio, measles outbreak, it attacks all age groups, but more or less children with compromising or compromised health systems, living in poorer conditions. Especially here in Bangladesh, we see how the average parent, when they deal with measles, they're very hopeless or helpless to see that the system is overwhelmed. Over 400 innocent lives have been lost in this recent couple of week term that we have seen, 2 to 3 months. How would you see this? What should the administration be doing in return to provide that such an outbreak should not happen in the future? How do you see it?
Well, as you have said that these measles becoming a concern for the government, and as well as in Africa the Ebola outbreak.
Right.
Well, WHO actually declared emergency because urgent health issues are there. So definitely they have this breaking of Ebola is definitely a serious concern for international community, because we have seen the COVID outbreak and how it affected the humanity. Well, here in Bangladesh, definitely when you were shouting for reaching to the middle income country and measles outbreak because of lack of vaccines in the country doesn't make any sense. So despite the vaccination, if the measles has outbroken, then you would have said that you have tried your level best, but still it could have been an outbreak. But whereas over here the vaccines, there were no vaccines for the children, and it is very difficult to manage like children less than 5 years. Right. They are vulnerable to these measles, and the vaccination process that's been hindered, and the interim government, that was an absolute fiasco for them, because they didn't buy enough vaccines. Because health should be, this is one of the urgent basis of a good governance. So definitely it's an absolute failure, an absolute fiasco of the interim government, so that enough vaccination is not been imported and it's not been carried out. So right. that's a matter of real concern over here for the country, and that's a matter of public shame as well. The country, the taxpayers' money is not been, when the public money is not spent wisely, then definitely that is not for the for the cause that July happened. That is not for the cause this country right. has got independence from the Pakistan. So that is a matter of shame, and we urge to the government, and we urge to the WHO as well, so to provide us vaccine, so that this measles outbreak would not expand, So that is a real concern for us. And right. As you have said, that this is one of the major key issues in the world in terms of environment and health. So everyone should come forward.
Of course, and definitely very important statements made by Professor Shibli Islam. I want to just touch very briefly on a news that is running as the breaking news of this very hour. The Global Samut Flotilla Crisis Room says that it has lost 23 vessels, communication with these vessels, which have been attacked by Israeli army in international waters. The piracy really seems to be the norm for when it comes to Israel. The Global Samut Flotilla, which is expected to break the naval blockade of Gaza in another attempt, while Israeli Navy forces have intercepted the boats, and there is a video of them trying to ruin their entire mission to dissolve this naval blockade. How do you see this your very brief comments regarding this issue. It's a breaking news that is happening today.
Well, I strongly condemned with all the humanitarian organization. They must have been, condemning this heinous activity, because Samud Flotilla, basically they are carrying medicines and medical aids to the war-torn region, and they're working for humanitarian reason, and these medicines, these aids are indispensable for this war-torn region, to be honest, and intercepting these vessels is definitely a violation of international law. International community strongly condemned about this heinous activity and this illegal activity that's been going on by the Israeli occupation forces. Well, as you have said that I've mentioned as well, this is indispensable for this vulnerable people who are suffering endlessly on that Palestinian region.
Very beautifully stated by Professor Shibli Islam. I thank you for your time and your patience in talking about national and international issues of global importance. I thank you once again for being here on the set of International Affairs. Thanking Norman Floyd Barnes for his support and his insight regarding worldwide perspectives from Washington, District of Columbia. I want to end this program on a remembrance. Of course, today is 18th of May. Let's remember the Tamil Remembrance Day, which marks the end of the Sri Lankan civil war, serving as a solemn day of remembrance of the thousands of Tamil civilians who lost their lives in the final phases of the conflict. With that being said, I am signing out on International Affairs. I will see you all on tomorrow's program.